Okay, I believe we are recording. So we are going to start with downloading Xampp and getting it to run. So we go to Apache friends.org downloads, and I'll put a link to this on Canvas. I think, as a matter of fact, I want to say that I already have a link to the same page in the resources. Okay, your download doesn't start automatically. Click here. Okay, it's finished downloading. So let me go to my downloads folder. First, I'm gonna right click on it and go to properties and make sure that it's not blocked. Right, so I'll unblock it, and then I'm going to run it as administrator. Click OK. For the most part, just pretty much click next. So here it's giving you the options of what components to install. We're going to be using Apache MySQL, not so much in this class, but in the next one we will. We don't necessarily need the Mercury mail server. We don't need Tomcat. We can leave the FileZilla FTP server. We're not going to be using Perl, but so we can remove that. And we're going to leave everything else as is. Now it's going to install it in the C drive Xampp folder. You can change the location if you'd like. So now we just wait for it to install.
I just got.
Now, while this is installing, Microsoft also has its own web server that you could also use, and it's called IIS. It is included in Windows 11, Home or Pro. But since both of them, they use the same port number, port 80 and 443, while you can run both of them at the same time, if you do, they're going to be fighting over the same ports, and so you would have to then do some extra configuration. But while this is downloading and installing, let me go ahead and show you how to install IIS. So we click on the Start menu and type Features. Turn Windows features on or off. And here we have Internet Information Services, or IIS. Right, you then click OK, and OK, and then it'll install. It may require for you to restart the computer. Now I'm gonna cancel it because I don't want to install it on this VM.
We don't have to use the VM to install it, right?
You may get a pop-up like this. Do you want to allow public and private network access to this application? This is the built-in firewall in Windows, asking you if you want to open up the port so that you can access the web server that you're installing it from a different computer. Okay. Right? You don't have to, but I'm going to allow it. Do you wish to start the control panel now? Yes. Now here's the thing. Here's the reason why I'm running this as, actually this just launched it as a regular user. So here you'll see, in order to start Apache, you have the start button. So now the web server itself is running. If you then go to the browser and type what's called the loopback address, 127.0.0.1, that's something you might want to memorize.
You said loop
Loopback.
and the number 12?
127.0.0.1. So that's actually something that is covered more in depth in a networking class. But all it is there's a range of IP addresses that start with 127.0, and they're all called loopback, that are dedicated to your own network card. So like when you access it or you ping it or whatever, that traffic never actually leaves the network card. It just kind of loops back into it. It's used to troubleshoot network issues on your own computer, or you're running any network-based services on your computer. You can use that to access it, right? Most of the time, there is a URL name or a domain name that's mapped on your computer in a file called the hosts file, that is mapped to that IP address on pretty much any computer, and that's called local host. So in another tab, you can just type in local host, and that'll take you back to the same page.
To the previous.
Yeah, yes. Now this page itself is actually a web server. It's a page being served by the web server we just installed. Right. So if I go back to the control panel and I stop Apache and I refresh the page, it's not going to load. Right. Because effectively the web server is no longer running. Right. Now, if you want to make sure that the web server launches or starts running as soon as you turn on the computer or you log in, we need to run it as what's called a service, right? And that's what these buttons on the left will do. However, to turn that feature on, we need to run the control panel as administrator. Right now, it's not running as administrator; it's just running as the regular user. So, in order to do that, I'm going to go ahead and close the control panel. Go to down here to the taskbar and quit. Right click on the service and go ahead and quit it.
Are you gonna provide us with this video or just?
Yes. Okay. So now Xampp, the control panel, is no longer running. So I'm going to click on the start menu, type Xampp control panel, and then I'm going to run it as administrator. So now that it's running as administrator, you'll notice that under the modules services, there's a little red X. So if I click on the X for Apache, it's going to install the service for Apache. And so now whenever I turn on the computer, or this is the virtual machine, it's going to run automatically. I won't have to do anything. It's going to be running, right? Since I just installed it, it's currently not running. Right? If I want to do the same thing for the MySQL and the filezilla same thing. Right. So now they're all installed as a service. Now, to start the services, again, you can either click on the button over here under Actions, or if, let's say, the control panel is closed, the control panel is actually always running down here. So you can click on the control panel down here, right click, right, and it'll show you the services, and from here, you can go ahead and start it, or stop the service. Right. So at this point, it's already running. I'm going to click Show and Hide to look at it. Now you see, if you look at this under ports, you'll see port 80 and 443. So those, every network connection, uh, not only do you need an IP address, but you also need a port number. The port number is basically like a door to access that service, right? And so web servers typically run on port 80 for unencrypted connections, or if you're using an SSL certificate for secure connection, it'll be port 443. Right. Now, normally when you visit a website, you don't have to specify the port number, right? But if you're going to be running multiple websites on the same system, one way to separate how you access them is by the port number, by changing the port number, right? Yes. This is also why if we install IIS and Apache, both of them are going to want to run by default on port 80. And so whichever one launches first will take over port 80 and port 443, and the other one will be unable to run under those ports. So then you would have to change it. Right. But again, that with the ports, that's more of a networking topic. Okay.
So we have to leave them on?
Yes. So here now we're now actually successfully running our own web server on our own computer, which in a way it mimics what the hosting provider is going to do for us. But this is our local developing environment. So now the question is, where are the files stored? So if you think back to when we were installing it, we saw that we were installing it in the C drive under the Xampp folder. So this folder contains all of the files that Xampp needs to run. Right. We then need to look for the htdocs, which I just passed. The htdocs folder is the one that is going to contain all of the HTML files. Right. So, like to test the website on your computer, this is where you would want to save the files in your development production environment. Now, all web servers, for the most part, there's a default file name that web servers typically look for to serve, off the bat. It'll typically be called an index.html, index.php. In the case of Microsoft, it can also be default HTML or default.asp. That file name, or the file name that it looks as the default one, can be changed in the configurations of the web server. So the landing page in that folder or for that site will almost always be index.html. So for like the purposes of web design 1, we're going to be working with HTML. So it'll be index.html. So when we open up this default page, this one here is actually loading this index.php file, which if we open it up and look at it, under, I don't think I have Notepad++ installed on this computer, so I'm just going to open it up in Notepad. This is all it has. So if I add hello world with H1 tags at the top, and I reload the page, hopefully it will not break it.
Can we also mess with it?
Yes. It should actually be appearing there at the top. Okay, so let me reopen that file. And let me add the body tags. As well as the opening and closing HTML. Oh, okay, I see what's going on. So so when you land on the index, it's redirecting us to the dashboard folder. Okay. So then I need to comment this out. And there it is. Yeah, so I'm actually editing the wrong file for this demonstration. So I'm gonna fix this, return it.
Why wasn't it working? So
Well, it was not working because when you land on the local host, this file is then redirecting you to a file inside the dashboard folder
like a domino
and
effect.
loading this index file right here.
Okay. And how can we avoid that?
By just not using that. I'll show you that in a minute.
Okay.
Right. So if I then enter that same text in here. This is causing an issue. See, there it is. Now, for our purposes, I'm going to create a new file. And by opening up Notepad, and I'm going to save this one as, I'm going to go to the Xampp folder and htdocs, and I'm going to name this one index.html. Save, save as type. I'm going to change that to all files and save. If I don't change it to all files, it's going to save it as a text, as a txt file, right? It's going to have the extension txt. We want it to have an extension of HTML or HTM. And now here I'm going to create a basic skeleton, HTML skeleton. So I'm going to start with my doc type, HTML, and then my opening and closing HTML tags. Our whole page is going to be contained inside these two HTML tags, right? So one thing that we need at the very top is our header. So we have a tag for that. So we need an opening and closing HTML tag, right? So these here, I'm gonna be referring to them as tags. Oh, this is a little bit difficult to see, so Control plus. There you go. Ah, now we can see it better. We're no longer squinting, hurting our eyes. So we've got our header section, and now we need our body section. And so naturally the name of the tag is going to be body. Everything inside the body tag is what we actually see on the page. Right? Everything inside the head is our metadata, where we link to other external files, and where we include the title of the page. Now, notice one thing I just started to do. I am indenting the code. This is a common practice. It's a best practice for you to indent the code, the tags inside your main tags. Technically speaking, since the head and the body are inside the HTML, I should be indenting those as well. And you would do this to make your code easier to read. Right? Now, a lot of times people will use tabs. Right now I'm just using space. But because these are like our top elements, I'm not gonna do that with the head and stuff. But for the demonstration purposes, I'm gonna do that with the title tag for now.
And that's just to present where you want the wording to be, or where you want it.
This is just to make this easier for us to read.
Oh, okay.
The browser is not gonna care.
Okay.
The browser is not gonna care about this.
Okay.
Right. So like in the very first class, when I was showing you what the back end of that page looked like, and it was like all over the place.
Yeah.
Right. That was Canvas doing away with this to make it more efficient for the computer, right? To run it, to store it. but it makes it a lot more difficult for us to be able to read. It takes time and experience to be able to look at that jumble mess and be able to identify. That's also where the color coding comes in, because that makes it easier for the different elements to stand out, right? Uh, you can do the same. You can edit all of that in Notepad, but Notepad it's just going to be black and white. It's a bit more difficult to read, a lot more difficult to read, right? You can't do it, and with practice and by looking at the different codes, things will naturally start to stand out. You'll identify the patterns. But if you're using an editor that has color coding, it makes it easier for you to look at, detect what you're looking for. Okay.
Especially for rookies,
Yes.
like this is the first class.
Okay. So now, if I save this and I go back to my browser and I type localhost or the IP address, it's actually still loading up the index PHP. So I don't want that, so I'm gonna temporarily rename index PHP to index 2. That way the the web server is no longer gonna find index because we renamed it, and it'll then default to the next default file in its database to look for, which in this case should be index.html. So again, open up another tab, localhost, and this is what we get. We get what seemingly appears to be a blank page, but and it's a little bit harder to see on the screen. If you look at the tab, you can see what I put in the title, which is my first page. Alternatively, if I right click and I scroll down to view page source, and then at the right side we see a shortcut key, Control U. We can then look at the actual HTML behind that page, and sure enough, there it is. Now let's add a little bit of text to this in the body. I'm going to use one of these 7 header tags. So with header tags, you have H1 through H6. H1 will give you the largest text. H6 will give you the smallest text. All of them will be bolded. So H1, welcome to my page. And just as we have an opening H1 tag, we need a closing H1 tag, and the closing tag needs to have the /. And of course, I need to indent it to make it easier for me to read. I'm then going to save it. I'm pressing the shortcut key Control S to save it, or you can click File, Save. And if I reload this, here I can already see the change that I made. If I go to the page itself and reload it, welcome to my page. Okay. So here at this point, I've already created just a very basic, my very first page, right? I can have text without any tags, and it'll display it. So, hello world. I am glad to be here. And I save it. Now notice, I typed this out in 2 different lines, right? When I reload the page, you'll notice that it didn't care that I typed it out in two different lines. It just displayed it as if it was part of the same line. Right. This is a very simple, important concept to understand, to know. So okay, that's just basically how to create some page. I am missing Notepad++ in this computer, so now let me go ahead and install it. And there is a link to this in the resources. I'm just going to download the top one. I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to download the installer exe. Just going to give it all the defaults. I'm going to ask to create a desktop shortcut. When it finishes installing, I'm going to leave the check mark on Run Notepad and click Finish. Right, and there it is. So now I've got Notepad++ installed, and first thing that it opens is the changelog. I don't need to look at the changelog right now, so I'm just going to go ahead and close it. Let me go to File, Open. I'm going to open up the index file that we've been working on. So again, I'm going to navigate to my C drive. Xampp, htdocs, and open up my index file. And because it detected that it's an HTML file, it went ahead and it's automatically started color coding my text for me. But let's say you start off by opening up Notepad++, long keyboard. Right, and you type in the text, and it's like, well, I know this is HTML, creating a new file. Why isn't it color coded? Well, at this point, the Notepad++ doesn't know what kind of code you're using, so it's gonna at this point it's just gonna treat it as just text. So we need to go to language and tell it what kind of language we're using. Right, so here, if we scroll down, you'll see like a whole alphabet. And you can select one of many different coding schemes. I'm going to scroll down to H and select HTML. And now it knows what kind of document this is. Right, because I've told it. And because I've told it, when I go to save, it's going to automatically select the save as type as hypertext markup language, or HTML. Right. Notepad++ again can handle hundreds of different extensions. So if this were a cascading style sheet file, and I go to languages, select CSS. Well, now it's going to treat it as CSS. If I go to save, well, now the save as type, it's automatically selecting cascading style sheets. Okay, so now next we need to look at the filezilla. So I'm going to go to the filezilla-project.org site. download FileZilla client, scroll down to show additional download options, and download the 64 exe. FileZilla 3.71.1 Win64 setup exe. Windows protected your PC. Microsoft Defender Smart Screen prevented an unrecognized app from starting. Running this app might put your PC at risk. Oh no, it doesn't want to let me run it. So I click more info. I understand the risks. I know that this application is safe, so I'm going to run it anyways. Again, I'm going to leave all the defaults except for the desktop icon. I want a desktop icon. And when it finishes running, I'm going to go ahead and open it up. Okay, so this is FileZilla. On the left side, you'll see local site. These are the local files on your computer. Once you connect to the web server, you will see those that information on the right side. Right, so the top side, the top part right here, this is the folder itself. And then when I select the folder, on the window below it, on the pane below it, you will see the actual files inside that folder. This top pane shows you the current status of the connection. Down here, it'll show you the queue, the files that you're uploading or downloading. Right. In order to connect to your host server or your hosting account, you can enter the hosting information, the server information under host, your username, the password, and then the port number. The port number will typically be port 22 for SFTP or port 23 for FTP. If we go to File and Site Manager, press Control S, or we click on this little icon, it'll open up the Site Manager, and we can configure the connection settings to our host right here. So I'm going to create a new one, new site. I'm going to call it just VPS. I'm going to select the SFTP protocol. And so in this instance, I'm actually going to connect to a virtual private server that I have. Right. So you would type in the name of the server. So VPS dot, I don't know, myserver.net, port 22. As a matter of fact, since we are running the FileZilla server on our computer, let's try and see if we can do a connection to it. Okay, that's not going to work. I'm just going to go and connect to my virtual server. Okay, so I've configured my VPS, and since it's the first time connecting to it, it's going to show me the host, show me the fingerprint ID, the shop, and it's going to ask me, do I trust this system? Uh, since I do, I'm going to select the always trust this host and add the key to the cache. So what's happening here is when you do an FTP connection or SFTP connection, every system creates what's called a hash key, hash value. That hash acts as a fingerprint to that system. So let's say you have someone that creates another server, another host that's using the same IP address or it's using the same name, and you accidentally connect to it. It's going to provide you with a different hash value, and at that point you'll know, oh, this is not the same machine that I was connected to. Right. So it's a security method. If you re-image your server or reinstall the server and stuff, uh, that hash value, that fingerprint will change, and so then you need to um, revalidate it. So I'm gonna trust it. I'm gonna click OK, and let me fix my credentials. Okay, there we go. I needed to fix the password that I was using. So here now I am connected to my hosting computer, my virtual private server. So I'm going to navigate to where I have the web files. Okay, so I want to open up the index file that I have on my server. Since it's the first time that I'm using this, I'll do view edit, and it's going to ask me what application do I want it to open it up with. So I'm going to use custom program, browse, and since I have Notepad++ installed, that's what I want to use. So I'm going to go to the C drive, the program folders, find Notepad++, find the executable, open, click OK. And now when I open up or edit a file on my server through FileZilla, it's going to open it up automatically on Notepad++. Right? And so this right here, keep hitting shortcut, and now it opens up in the browser and the local computer instead of the virtual machine. Okay. So I decided to just connect to a different server. So here I am connected to a different web server, and on the right side, as I mentioned earlier, I can see the folders on the remote, and then down here the files. So if I wanted to go in, let's say, into the downloads, I select the downloads folder, and now I can see the files that I have in the downloads. Right, and then to demonstrate, I'm gonna open up this index file, which currently has this HTML, and as you can see here, I've got my styles for the CSS. When I open up that that connection, that's this page. Right, now let's verify that I am in fact connected in there. So I'm gonna add some text using the P tag for paragraph. So opening and closing, and I'm gonna say welcome to IMIT 1416. web design 1. Save. Now when I modify a file in this fashion and I save it, it still needs to be uploaded. So I'll then go back to FileZilla, and because I opened up the file to edit it from within FileZilla and I selected the text editor, when I save it and I'll go back, it's going to ask me, do I want to upload it? So finish editing, delete local file, unless I'm not done with it. So I'm not done with it, so I'm going to click yes. And right here, you may have noticed that it real quickly transferred and uploaded the file. So if I go back to the page, I refresh it. And since the background is black, we can't see it. So let me fix that. Let me add beauty color, style center. I'm going to go ahead and add the P tag to the CSS up here. Need to make sure that it uploads. I refresh it, and it's not doing it. Oh, it's not doing it because I'm missing a comma. So it was not able to determine that I meant the P tag. Syntax error on my end. So I refresh it, and there it is. Right, simple as that. So on FileZilla, on the Q files, if you're uploading multiple files, this is where you'll see what files are currently in the queue to upload. If for whatever reason there's any file that failed to upload or download, it'll appear under the failed transfers, and then in the successful transfers, it'll list all the files that were successfully transferred, either uploaded or downloaded. Right. If I lower this, on this pane, once again, I can scroll up and look at the history of my connection. So right here it says connection attempt with econ refused, connection refused by server, could not connect to server, waiting, blah blah blah. That was ultimately because I was typing in the wrong password. Eventually I added the right password and I was able to connect. But you can see it's also color coded. Red obviously means no good. And that's the FileZilla component. So let me show you real quick how to install VS Code. For VS Code, it's very simple. Open up the Microsoft Store. This is the easiest way. We type in VS Code or Visual Studio Code, and we're looking for the green one. We just click install, and it'll install it for us. Right. Alternatively, you can Google VS Code and go to code.visualstudio.com. And you can download it from here. Again, I have a link to the Visual Studio Code on Canvas. You can always just download the executable both from here for Windows, Linux, or Mac.